I put too much stock into Texas's defense. Now, to be fair, while Texas was ranked third in the college football playoffs, I did think that Texas had one of, if not the best defenses, probably next to Michigan's in the remaining four teams. And I thought that the Washington Huskies had the worst of the four teams. I thought that one of two things were going to happen. I thought that this was going to be a defensive bout because of Texas and their defensive line is one of the best in the nation, and just their corners are great. Or it was going to be a shootout because Quinn Ewers is able to throw the ball all over the field. We know Michael Penix was a runner-up for the Heisman. What he does with the ball is incredible. And obviously, for all the praise that I'm giving myself for picking Michigan over Alabama, I was drastically wrong. I picked Texas over Washington. Well, Washington beat Texas 37-31. Now, obviously, it ended. The ending was crazy, but this game was won. How do I explain it? I'll explain it like this. To me, both of these teams, I know it it didn't really feel like it in the game as much, but both of these teams were equally matched. Obviously, the game changer was Michael Penix. I mean, he went 29 for 38, 430 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's and their wide receiver. I mean, Odunze had 6 receptions for 125 yards. That's incredible. So when you look at those numbers, it obviously doesn't feel like it. But both of these, I mean, even with all that, Washington won by 6 points. And they could have lost if, the final play went differently. But both of these teams were equally matched. One thing that I didn't talk about when we talked about Michigan and Alabama that I'm going to talk about now is mistakes. I talk about one thing that I talk about all the time on this podcast is the margin of error and how margin of error is different. North Carolina basketball, they played College of Charleston over the weekend. We're not going to talk about it here, but the margin of error that North Carolina has playing the College of Charleston compared to the margin of error against playing someone like Kentucky is different. When you're playing a team that is better, when you're playing a team that the talent level is close to yours or could be better than yours, your margin of error goes down considerably because and that's another thing that I haven't really explained. What is the margin of error? The margin of error is how much wiggle room do you have before it gets detrimental? How much wiggle room do you have before the errors, usually self errors, start to negatively affect not just your team in the moment, but the outcome of the game? That is a margin of error. So when North Carolina is playing someone like a College of Charleston, you can have, even though you don't want it, obviously, but you can afford to have 20 turnovers. I'm not saying they did, but you can have 20 turnovers because the talent gap is so wide between the University of North Carolina and the University of Charleston. that those 20 turnovers are not going to affect you the same way 20 turnovers would affect you if you're playing against the University of Kentucky. In the Rose Bowl, I thought the margin of error, I mean, obviously when you get to the college football semifinals, the margin of error is slim because all four of these teams, or the team that you're playing, is close to skills, close as far as skill-wise to you. And I thought the margin of error was small, and the Rose Bowl started off with a potential interception. J.J. McCarthy threw it. The Alabama player caught it, bobbled it, but I thought, oh yeah, it's going to be Alabama game. I'm wrong. My predictions is wrong. On top of that, we saw a bevy of special teams blunders against Alabama. I mean, we saw a missed kick. We saw a missed field goal. We saw a missed PAT. We saw multiple gaffed punt returns that resulted in, or one resulted in a turnover, one didn't. But one could have been costly at the end of the game. Now, ultimately, Michigan overcame those mistakes. But that's where we get to Texas and Washington. As we see from the score, 37-31, both of these teams were they were close as far as level of competition. They were close as far as skill. Michael Penix throwing the ball all over the field, not in a bad way. Again, he had 430 yards. But even in that, the game was still winnable by Texas. The thing that killed Texas was the margin of error and the mistakes. How many turnovers? Let me see. How many turnovers did Texas have? Texas as a team had 2 turnovers. 2. Now, on top of that, they had 10 penalties for 66 yards. Now, you're hearing that and saying it's only 2 turnovers. I mean, Washington had 1. Cool. 2 turnovers isn't that much. Cool. 10 penalties for 66 yards isn't that much. Cool. But compound that into your team lost by 6 points. You think one of those turnovers could have possibly, instead of taking one of those turnovers away, could have been maybe a field goal, could have been maybe a touchdown? I know one of those turnovers was a butt fumble. The player literally ran into his teammate's butt and dislodged the football. And some of those Texas penalties were costly. Like, costly. You see, when you're going against a prolific offense, and I talked about this last episode, you don't have, yes, you have a good defense, but you can't. The thing about a prolific offense and the thing about Washington's offense is we've seen them flip the switch mid-game. And we've also seen what their strategy is, and I've never seen this before, ever. Now, I'm sure there's going to be people in my comments that say, no, this happened before, or this team used to do it. I appreciate you guys because I don't remember. But as we speak, I don't think I've ever seen a team with such an explosive offense like this and such a fast offense also specialize in milking the clock. The announcer said it the whole time. We saw it in the game. What Washington likes to do is they like to build a lead and then milk the clock, which is smart. So, and they like to milk the clock so much that when you get the ball and you're already down maybe 2 scores, it's almost impossible for you to come back because they've run so much time off the clock. And I've never seen it. I've never seen a team be so prolific offensively and also have the innate skill, because it is a skill, an innate skill to literally burn the clock. And then they're not burning, then they're still burning the clock. Being prolific, it's just they go in warp speed. And as soon, and again, I've never seen, they go at warp speed. And as soon as they get the lead, they push, like hold the emergency brake and come to like a complete stop. And then they just roll on by. They just coast. Now, not coast in a bad way, because that sounds negative, but they do everything that they're supposed to do. I've never seen a team be able to do that. Oh man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.